Hi, everyone. I know you like it when we get crazy, weird, deep, and just straight up out there. So prepare yourself for this two-part series on my Ben Solo show because you will absolutely love this one. So I brought on Dr. Raymond Keller and Robert Potter, in which they both talk about their physical experiences with Venusians and what they have been told about our planet and the human race throughout the years. We also have an awesome discussion about Nikola Tesla and if he is truly from Venus. We get into the truth behind Valiant Thor and how CERN made particles travel faster than the speed of light and what that really means for humanity. I also show a clip from a supposedly real alien interview and how this relates to our bodies being what they call vessels. Now, just to note, just because we have someone on the show doesn't mean we necessarily believe or even agree with everything they say. However, I do love conversations that make us question reality or get us to think about things that we may never have thought before, or even test our own understanding about the universe and life and mysteries. And this show definitely does that. I hope you enjoy this two-part series. So without further ado, let me introduce Robert Potter and Dr. Raymond Keller. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I have two very special guests with me. The first one is Dr. Raymond Keller, and you've written 7 books on Venus rising. You're also a speaker in this community, and you've done a lot of other work. And then, of course, Robert Potter and Robert Porter. And
Potter,
it is
like Harry, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, Harry's my cousin.
That's funny.
Believe that or
not. That's great. Well, you've done a lot too. I mean, you put on a conference almost every year, especially at Mount Shasta. You're a contactee. You've had a lot of experiences with specifically with Venusian and with Venus as well, and we'll get into all of that. And you can talk about your experiences. And and you're putting on a conference very soon at Mount Shasta in July. And we're all going to be there actually for this. And I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to have Laura Eisenhower, Brad Olson, and a bunch of other speakers are going to be there as well. Do you want to talk about it for a minute?
Sure. Now that you mentioned it, I'm pulling it up here, but I want to correct something. I'm a contactee. I have had some experiences. Most of the times they've never admitted who they were. I did have some unique experiences with Semyasi, the Pleiadian, when I was very young with Dr. Fred Bell. Now, Semyasi never admitted who she was until I was beamed aboard. And then I think, as far as I can remember, it was the person that I saw. So they all, I don't know what to say. They all very much live and walk and talks amongst us. So
really?
Yeah. I mean, they all have advanced security. So I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see that. Can you see that? So yeah, here's the summer conference, folks. And you see we have quite a lineup of people, some amazing contactees. They're really like people who have face-to-face physical contacts. I'm pretty much I'll grill a contactee under the hot lights like a ham cheese sandwich if they say so, because I really want to learn. And some of the greats that I've had in my life have been Fred Bell, Dr. Frank Stranges, of course. Raymond Keller is my wonderful guide mentor, and the famous contactee Louis Martens from South America. I've worked very closely supporting them and promoting their work. Now, here you see all the speakers and the biographies. We also have some volunteer positions, but folks, there's a special deal offering. If you enter Ben 10 at the time of making the your purchase, you're going to get a discount. And I would suggest you do it soon because we're running out of 4-day tickets. 4-day tickets, we're only can have one venue. I have 3 venues on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So July 7th through 10th. We have 1-day, 2-day, 3-day and 4-day tickets. The 4-day tickets will sell out very soon. We're right at the limit here. So it's a great conference. If you like what you hear today, you're going to hear that and more. So thank you for letting me share that with everyone. And I hope they'll take advantage of your promotion code BEN10 capitals. And we're helping to support Ben in his expenses coming out by that feature. The other thing is Raymond Keller is very, very experienced. He's lived on Venus for 2.5 months. He has regular meetings. They're never arranged. He doesn't know how it's going to happen. He gets a feeling, and next thing you know, they show up in a store and they go for a drive or something, and their security is pretty incredible. So I'm going to be quiet. Let's see if you have any questions about they call him Cosmic Ray because he's been in the UFO field since he was 15.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, so, when someone's like, oh, yeah, I lived on Venus, there's a lot of like skepticism about this, right? So I really want to hear your perspective on this, and what does that actually mean? And did you physically go to Venus? Is it more of just like a spiritual aspect where you kind of like, like through astral projection kind of thing, where you kind of leave your body and then experience this? So I really wanted to hear your point of view on this and exactly your experience, Raymond.
Yes, I'm talking about a physical experience, like the contactees going back to the 1950s and even before that with Swedenborg and Dante and others going back in history. And it's not really so unusual. There was a recent survey conducted that said that not only do 50 million Americans believe in UFOs as interplanetary spaceships, but another 15 million believe that they've had contact with extraterrestrial beings at one level or another, to include the physical. So this is not some isolated phenomena, and I'm not claiming to be the only one.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of why we started Edge of Wonder, like Rob and I, when we came out, because I knew that there was a lot of people out there that had experiences that were afraid to kind of talk about them, whether they were going to be like, outcast by their own family members, by their friends, and when we first came out, we were a little bit nervous even, because it's like, wow, we're kind of like in the fringe group of things, how are people going to respond to this? But I truly believed we were just guided in what we were doing and how we presented it. And yeah, I mean, there was one of some of the biggest compliments that we were getting. It's just like, wow, you guys, on the surface, we just appear these two normal dudes just talking about these things. And, it gave people a sense of confidence. Wonder. Yeah. And there was just so many comments that we were getting from people from all over the spectrum, like all walks of life, even people that were owning their own business. They're like, dude, I've seen UFOs and I can't even talk about it, and it's like, I'm a CEO of a company, or, I'm a school teacher, or this or that. I have a personal friend actually whose husband, he started finding out what we were doing, and he didn't want to talk about this stuff, and I was like, why did she get with him? And then quietly, once he got comfortable, he told me that he was seeing these like just kind of the typical gray beings in his room occasionally, and it freaked him out because he didn't even believe in this stuff. So there's a lot of people out there that I mean, at the time he didn't believe in it, and then he just got afraid to talk about it because he didn't want to appear crazy. So I think this is like a really important topic where I think there's so many people out there that have these experiences, and they feel like they're looking for a home, and that's what we were trying to build, is like a community. And I know, Robert, that's part of what you want to create too, with especially the conference that you have, correct?
Yeah, I'm definitely promoting it. And you guys I've watched your shows. You guys are young, you're fresh, you got your technological stuff together. Your website's incredible. It looks like Netflix. So, and you had a lot of followers, and I know it's a lot of burden there, but I think that there's a wide variety of extraterrestrial contactees. It's actually a interdimensional experience. So I think that there's so many apperceptions, and Raymond can talk to that as well.
That's great. And so Raymond, let's get back to your, like, how did the whole thing take place? Like you said you spent 2 weeks on Venus that you said?
Or 2.5 months.
2.5 months. And it's very fascinating because just recently these MIT astronomers and NASA came out saying that it's quite possible that there is life on Venus because of the cloud formation. And they're like, the way the clouds are, it's like it would only happen if there was life on the planet. So
yeah,
it's kind of fascinating. What is your guys' take on this?
Oh, yes. Well, I definitely...
never a straight answer.
Well, I definitely think that we're moving in the right direction. With the recent Parker probe as well, it went to the night side of Venus, and it was supposed to be so dark under an atmosphere of allegedly 93 times the atmospheric pressure of Earth, and there's not supposed to be anything there except darkness, and yet everything was lit up like a Christmas tree. There were lights moving underneath the clouds and all over the planet that were peeking out from the surface and in the clouds themselves. So there's definitely more to it that they're not telling. When I do all my research, this is the original Time magazine right here for the Mariner probe that revealed the results of it in 1963. So I go all the way right to the source, right to the source and ask the horse, so to speak. And all my material, I've provided is a vindication over time for not only myself but for all the other contactees that have come before. As far as the atmosphere of Venus, when the Mariner 2 probe went there, the actual results were that the radiometer only measured, took 3 small measurements on the rim of Venus. So it was measuring electrical heat in the ionosphere. There is, ample evidence from the Venera probes, 13 and 14, that landed on the Venusian surface. It wasn't dark or anything like they thought it would be, that they wouldn't even be able to see the sun. It was looked like a picture off of the desert in Arizona or New Mexico. You could see way into the distance and see 3 or 4 lines of mountain ranges. You could also see variated terrain, and you could see just a beautiful sunlit day, like it would appear right here on Earth.
I'd like to add to that. Now, there's so much more. Raymond's written an entire book, or several, that actually address these problems of what we call the silence group, of the elites, who basically, and I don't want to focus on negativity, but they want to keep the information for themselves to use to their advantage and position themselves for humanity. For what ungodly ends, I don't know. But truth and honesty is very important to the Venusians. And so that's what Raymond and I are doing. We're acting as postmen, delivering the truth. And then the rocket's veering with rocket. Go to my product section in books. I don't make a lot of money. Neither does Raymond. Neither does any author these days. So this isn't about pushing money. This is about pushing the gnosis of the information Raymond's going to hold up. I can see the Rockets to Venus book right now, but you can go ahead and see that on my website. This book chronicles if there's no life there, why have they sent more satellites there than anywhere else? Why are they constantly going there? Valiant Thor met Dwight Eisenhower at the Pentagon, and I've met Valiant Thor in 2003 in Utah, and I can tell you that they're real. I met his wife Jill, also on the picture of them at the famous picture in 1957 in Las Vegas, and I met Don in Yucca Valley back in the early days. So it's absolutely real. There is life up there, and there is a cover-up. So where do we go from there? And we have to go, okay, so, where's the proof? You're going to have to look inside, because the truth, they do not want to influence us and frighten us. They want us to learn to grow into love and understanding, and to be kind to each other, and to at least not try to hurt each other. I said, what about the natural catastrophe? What about an axial? What about a pole flip, axial flip? And they said, Rob, don't worry about the natural disasters.
Interesting.
A pole flip can take place, but they said they're more concerned about what's called an axial flip, and that takes place every 5,000 years because our planet wobbles. So that will cause a huge tsunami. I asked about the planet Nibiru, and they said, yes, it's coming, but it's 1,500 miles away. Don't worry about it. They said, more than any natural disaster, Rob, we're concerned what Earth humans are doing to each other.
Because that's really the key. I kind of, I'm a very I believe in karma and everything, so I truly believe that if we came together and stopped fighting with each other and really created like a peaceful environment, it would actually change the dynamic of what's happening at the world simultaneously. I do feel that there is a connection here, and it's like, and it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like, it's hard not to talk about the negative things, because that in the control aspect, because that's kind of what's happening right now. But also I feel that that's why we're all here right now too. If everything was in the balance and peaceful, we probably wouldn't be here on this planet right now. And I feel that there's so many of us here because it's like, yeah, the world needs a lot of help right now. And it's like I feel like my mission was really to somehow aid in helping the human race towards like awakening to the spiritual element of what we've kind of lost as people.
Oh, Ben, I wanted to make a slight correction to that comment about Nibiru.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1,500 years off, because it's on such a highly elliptical orbit that extends almost 3 times as far out as Pluto. That it's going to take that long for it to come in proximity with the Earth. And even then, because it's not on the plane of the ecliptic, that it's going above and below the other planets. So it would just be seen in a small degree above the South Pole.
Okay. So all the planets were revolving like this around our solar system's going like this around the sun.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's going like this.
Right.
I see. Okay.
But more slanted and kind of way out there.
So 1,500 years that
it will cause volcanic disruptions. It generally causes some tectonic movements when it comes in.
But by then we'll be in a very different state of society. So.
Yeah.
That picture behind Raymond is actually the woman that invited him to Venus. She is the queen of Venus. I'll let you ask some questions, and I could share an image of her while he talks about. Her name is Lady Orda. Her Earth-based name originally, when she was born on Earth in 1585, was Katerina, and then she became Dolores Barrios when Raymond met her, and they obviously have ability for anonymous and fake identities, and of course they can travel literally without spaceships and stuff like that. So this is a kind of a Superman or Supergirl type of phenomenon.
Yeah, she changed her identity about every 15 years or so, and some of her various identities on the Earth are in the first Venus book, the last chapter there, Venus Rising.
Yeah. So, man, there's like so many things I want to kind of get into from here. I'm just trying to think, like, because so you mentioned Valiant Thor for one thing. I'm like super fascinated by Valiant Thor. I've been really researching this a lot. Laura and I have had a lot of conversations about it as well, because he met with President Eisenhower, so that's really fascinating in itself. Also, did you guys heard about the I'm sure you heard about it, but there's declassified documents on the official FBI website that talks about how Tesla may be from Venus, and they literally talked about like the space people that have visited Tesla.
Oh, yes. Well, as a matter of fact, I put together that PowerPoint just recently, and it is going to be shown in Germany, where various questions. There's like some 50-some questions on there that people ask at different presentations about Venus, and one of them had to deal with Valiant Thor. I could put that up if you want.
Sure, yeah, that sounds good.
And then Rob, while I'm doing that, if you want to tell a little bit something about Valiant Thor.
Oh, yeah. There you saw for a moment the Queen of Venus. I don't know if you could switch that. There you go.
Yeah, that's or what did you say, Orsic?
She goes by the name of Lady Orda. Tesla was very involved in the bees. He was from Venus. He was placed as an orphan on a Serbian priest's doorstep and adopted. He came here specifically to usher in this beautiful technology. Of course, we weren't ready for it. So there's a lot of challenges we face in getting the truth out there, with the silence group and stuff like that. The ecclesiastical authorities would lose their power when the truth is revealed of the information that the Venusians and the reality of our history takes place. Valiant Thor, I have that book. You saw Raymond just had that thing here. It says Margaret Storm, but I have that book called Return of the Dove. And Valiant Thor was appointed by the ascended master that we would know as Jesus Christ to watch over the earth as the primary leader of the Earth mission. He is not actually from Venus. It's not been revealed where he's from. I believe he comes from a higher dimension, but he appeared there one day and is well respected throughout the galaxy and works in the Venusian hierarchy of light. But his primary mission is to use the 12 what they call Victor class ships, and each of those ships have two sister ships cloaked in the higher dimension for faster reaction time to any type of threat or anything. And they watch, they have thousands of individuals under constant surveillance. They surveil every radio isotope. There will never be a nuclear war. That's a lie. They've already dismantled any ballistic missiles. They are concerned about dirty bombs that they would not, they've had to allow that for some reason, but there's a complex exopolitical aspect to what they're doing. And Valiant Thor, appeared in New Jersey to a very famous contactee, one of the original contactees, literally from the 40s, and appeared at his house. And Valiant Thor actually spoke Afrikaans language. They can all speak 120 languages. They go through a training. It's downloaded like the Matrix. And then they have to practice it. And he was speaking at that meeting in 1957. He was supposedly a South African reporter. That was his cover. And he was speaking at the clucking sound.
That's crazy.
So there's some fun stuff there.
Yeah, I just want, so this is taken from the actual FBI, declassified FBI documents. And this is from, actually, it was a George Van Tassel speech that was given that they deemed classified when he gave it. And this was in the I think it was the early 50s, but what it says, so Tesla died in 1943, and his engineers did not build the Tesla set until after his death. It was placed in operation in 1950, and since that time, the Tesla engineers have been in close touch with spaceships. The space people have visited the Tesla engineers many times and have told us that Tesla was a Venusian brought to this planet as a baby in 1856 and left with Mr. and Mrs. Tesla in remote mountain Province, what is now known as Yugoslavia. So
it's Serbia now.
Serbia, yeah. Okay, and because that was written in 1950, so now it'd be Serbia.
So the reason for that is the Nazis had murdered Tesla. It was Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's personal bodyguard, part of the Operation Paperclip that had infiltrated with the American vested corporate interests and the money boys, the Rockefellers, and those kind of people. So they have a vested interest in the control network. So that's why it's been squashed from the get-go.
That's so fast. So just the other day, when I was researching Tesla and his death, because he died at the New Yorker alone, as they said, but then it's like, and then he was like, oh, he's penniless, and none of he invented these things, but then nothing happened. But then it's like you really find that it was like J.P. Morgan and Edison that were stealing all his ideas because he wanted to have free energy for the people. And they were like, no, we can't do this, Oh, we just lost Raymond.
So I'll share this real quick before. Oh, Raymond's back. Never mind. I won't share. Oh, sorry,
okay. Hey, Rob.
All right. Okay. We left off talking about Tesla, and Robert, you were saying something really positive.
Yeah. So the Venusians had bought Tesla here as a purpose to uplift and give us information. The Venusians have been living, walking, breathing, and talking amongst us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, as far back as Lemuria. In fact, in Mount Shasta, behind me, there's a mountain here called Mount Shasta, and there's a city underneath there called Telos. Originally, that was a Lemurian colony that had foresaw the cataclysm in Lemuria, which is in the Pacific Ocean, and they set up an underground colony here. They only managed to get 30,000 people in there, but it now holds about 1.5 million people, extends 25 miles on 4 levels. And at my conference, I'll have a man who was invited in there. I asked the Venusians about it, and they did say that it is a Venusian colony. It's cloaked to the 5th dimension. So their interactions here have been very positive and seeking to aid us without interfering in our free will. So this is one reason they're not going to land in the silver spaceship in the spacesuit. There's the negative interlopers are hidden behind the scenes to what they're doing. So it's kind of a battle of two Wizard of Oz behind the curtains for the hearts and souls of humanity. Kaz, you want to talk a little bit about the positive aspect of that?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
okay. Raymond does. Yeah, sorry.
I call him Kaz.
All righty. I would just putting up some information before I had gotten cut off when I had gone to rents.com because I posted all kinds of photos with the events on the Highbridge Farm on that day with the photographer August C. Roberts' actual seal and his typed comments on it. And that's when I got, as soon as I did that, I got cut off. So I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, the Venusians do operate behind the scenes. Even other contactees have talked about this. George Damsky and others about how they're in contact with various scientists and certain political leaders and military leaders around the world as well. Sometimes openly, and sometimes undercover.
Interesting.
So I pulled up a picture here. This is Raymond arranged for me to meet this woman and interview her in the first ever video recorded. Now I'm not going to show a picture real long here, but we're going to be playing all their recordings and all the messages, voice and written, at my conference in a nonstop. I got about probably an hour and 20 minutes worth of recorded messages from them, mostly about positive hope and addressing various groups that Raymond and I have spoken to in China and my conferences. They leave a message, and they're very generous with me with that. So one of the things that we could surmise from that, this woman does have an earth life. In fact, she's been service of the earth for 300 years. So I'm going to share another image here. When Raymond came out with his second book, he was very fortunate to have, he knew that the Queen of Venus had sent what they call an angel force, in the ministry of angels to the people of earth. We hear that in the Bible. Beware lest ye entertain angels unaware is one of Raymond's first things. And this crew, if you can share that screen that I just shared with you, showed up. So that is, you see the two little red berets? There's Raymond Keller back in the day, looking sharp and handsome. And over here is the security chief. He's 2,400 years old. He lived on the earth. In fact, all of these three people here have lived on the earth. So we see this, they're just like us. There are, of course, many varieties of extraterrestrials that look quite different. And I'm going to share one more image with you. These two beautiful women here, which I think is, they're very special. You can see the light of God and the love of God in their eyes. They're very, I don't know, special. They were born and they went through a process of what's called translation. The woman on the left is named Lady Columba. She was born in 1902. She served in the Christian socialist movement in the 30s in India, where she met this other woman who was called Lady Aurora. They both were serving people. The woman, Lady Aurora, because of her service to her fellow man, was contacted by an ascended master who pretended he was ill, and she nursed him down the hill, and she became a dual citizen of Venus sometime in her life. I don't know the details of that. The woman on the left, at the age of approximately 50 in 1962 or 1957, I believe it was, was taken up by a Venusian scout craft and was served in the angel force on Venus. And that's in Raymond's book called Lady Columba, Venus Revelations. It's actually about parallel universes. So we have a lot of amazing stuff that we can just share all day long with you. So I just want to thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity. And I'm going to zip my little yapper and let you ask some questions based on that information I shared with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Where to start with all this? So like, okay, with those two women that you just showed, like what are they doing? Like, what are they doing right now? And then, I noticed, they're all wearing the red beret hats. And what's the significance of that?
Okay. Well, what they're doing, what they're doing now is in that picture, they were attending a UFO meeting, flying saucer kind of gathering in Northwest Pennsylvania, and they do frequently attend in disguise. They do come to meetings to see what we're doing, to monitor our activities. I have up here is the yeah. I wanted to share this. This is a set of a lot of questions that people ask, and I'll go ahead and can I put those up?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So while he's doing that, see,
You just-
these women have translated. They have a very young body, but they were born on Earth and they died. And in Lady Columba, Venus Revelations, they talk about the process of translation. I know it happened for George Adamski, George Van Tassel, and also for Gabriel Green, who introduced Raymond to this woman who is now the Queen of Venus. When she invited him there, she took him from Wuxi, China, where he's teaching English. Go ahead, Kaz. Did you manage to get it up?
Let's see, he's muted.
So the amazing contact that they're having is through their chosen messenger. See, Raymond has lifetimes and lifetimes on Venus. His first incarnation, when he went there, you've heard of the Akashic Records, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That kind of records what really happened in our history. And Raymond was granted access to the Akashic Records, and he researched his own lives. And I said, so what did you do? He goes, well, I was the first scribe for the first Caesar in Rome, Publius Virgil Maro. We know him as the poet Virgil. And he wrote the Aeneid, and he also had some poems about a woman he met named Lady Ankara, who revealed to him as a Venusian woman, and she became his lover. And I believe he probably went to Venus in that lifetime. So I said, what about the rest of the lives? To go, pretty boring, pushing sheep or herding sheep and pushing carts.
That's very funny.
Okay, is that showing up? So what we're looking at is that stem cells can be accessed for a limited amount of lifetimes to create younger bodies, and consciousness can be withdrawn from a dying body and downloaded into a new body, equivalent in youth to that of a teenager. And so to better understand that process in detail, you'd have to read the Lady Columba Venus Revelations that will go into greater depth on the subject.
Yeah, in this image here, Lady Columba was on the moon base on the backside of the moon, which is under the purview of the Venusians and the woman that you saw standing next to me that Raymond introduced me to. Her name is Lady, her commander, Lady Aura Rain. She is also a sixth dimensional serving the Earth. When you go to the higher dimensions, you can accelerate your ascension from your particular density to a higher dimension by serving a God and others. So this is really the knowledge of knowing that we're all one and we're all part of each other. So at 90, age of 93, they came down after her. She'd lived there for 4 years, so she was quite close with them. And she drew this picture in the late 50s or 60s when she watched another Earth person enter their body after death. And this is what happened to her. And that's why we see her so young. Raymond has other pictures that can evidence that. But this is to let people know that this form of ascension known as translation is available.
Well, this is so fascinating because all this work with stem cell research, in the medical industry right now, along with like the cloning aspect. And this is, again, I know we're not trying to talk on the darker aspect of this, but it, it's like for the elites, their biggest thing is how to like preserve their life and live forever, and if you could, I've heard this actually, there was a guy who was talking about how he was working somewhere and he had footage of one of the alien interviews or whatever, but he referred that the alien was calling a human body a vessel, and they could like just, basically take their spirit and then just go into another vessel and become that entity or that being.
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4. It's kept dark for the comfort of the aliens. The figure who is just barely visible in the left foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a raked seating area for observers. The interview was not going well. The telepath was trying to clarify some points from a previous interview, but he wasn't receiving coherent responses. As you can see, the being is in real distress. At this point, the telepath is sending out a message to the medical staff. I have to say, the medical personnel at S4 are less than first-rate. They tend to be selected for their willingness to keep secrets rather than their medical competence. By the way, he's not shining that light into the eyes. It looks that way, but in fact he's checking for hemorrhaging around the eye sockets and in the nasal cavity.
Victor uses the term vessels to refer to the aliens' conception of the body as a disposable vehicle for the soul.
That's super fascinating to me because it kind of shows from a scientific perspective actually how this could work from what you were describing, and why from a darker perspective they're trying to really utilize this and do more of the genetic and what I want to say, like genetic engineering of like humanity kind of thing in the darker way with it.
Yes, that's right, Ben. And the bodies that we have, when we look at them from an ET perspective, this is our vessel. It's a spacesuit for operating under the conditions of this planet, under the planetary conditions that we find ourselves.
So I'm going to have Kaz describe this photo. This was image drawn by Lady Columba on the cloaked moon of Venus, called above that moon was a platform called the Leviathan. And this is a council meeting of the Galactic Confederation of Light. And you can see the little girl with a red beret there. That's the woman we met, the moon-based commander.
Interesting.
And the gentleman standing up is the woman that took Lady Columba there. His name was Vorton, or kind of short for Venus Observation Ranger. Kaz, why don't you talk about the various beings?
Okay, sure. Well, this is actually, this was on board a space platform called the Leviathan, which was launched from the far side of the moon. And it is from a moon base there called Clarion, is where it originated from. And so you see a council meeting of the Galactic Confederation of Light, and you see different member beings from throughout the galaxy. So you on the far right, you see a Ganesha type elephant being. You see an octopus type being, or like a squid kind of being. Then you see Lady Columba herself. And on the far left, you can see a hybrid human and bee type of creature, and then a blue avian type of being. Remember that this was done in the late 1950s, so this is before we knew about these other kinds of non-humanoid beings. And Lady Columba reveals that there's 601 planets from 51 different solar systems in this confederation. And the book is really fantastic because it has all of her art. It's very very well done, and great revelations about Venus and the other planets.
Wow.
Yes. So I'll just say it's very well done, because she had this book and she gave it to Raymond Keller, and that dude, he put annotations, he made it understandable to our thing. Raymond is really doing a wonderful service of chronicling in detail with massive evidence information in these books. He cloaks his spiritual knowledge, and a lot of amazing things are revealed between the lines as you read these books. So you can meet Raymond at the Shasta Summer Conference with Alex Collier, myself, and some other wonderful contactees and other speakers. It's going to be a really fun time.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really am. Okay, I'm kind of backtracking here. I kind of want to go back to something about Valiant Thor, because there's two different images of Valiant Thor, and there's some debate in the whole community about which one is Valiant Thor.
I'm going to say this came from Phil Schneider.
Yes.
I think there was a misunderstanding. I saw his thing. He showed the first picture of Valiant Thor, and Valiant Thor has a brother named Don. I've met him. He was with 4 other Venusians at the time in a kind of peekaboo scenario and revealing himself to me. Another contactee with me, a really brilliant guy named Michael Legion. Oh, no, that's not. And I was like, dude, this is them. And they confirmed it for me later through Raymond. But this could have been the other brother. You have Don Thor, who was with Valiant Thor at Howard Menger's in the book Stranger at the Pentagon. And you had, I guess she'd be called Jill Thor, as in our terms of Valiant Thor's wife. And then there is another one named Thon Thor, Don, Thon, and Valiant Thor. Now, not Thanhor of Elena Danan's. He's a Pleiadian, but they call him Than. I don't think his name is Thor, but you have Valiant Thor, Don Thor. Now, I've never seen a picture of Thon, so I wouldn't know if that blonde guy with the short hair was Valiant Thor or not. Valiant Thor says he does take on various bodies to suit the occasion. So this is a thing that I asked the commander about, and she says, well, Rob, read the book Oversoul 7 by Jane Roberts, and it seems as though Kaz can address this, the various bodies that we have, because we are living parallel lives in a sense. So Kaz had a near-death experience, and he went up and saw his higher self. And what happened, Kaz?
Okay, I had an operation over at the VA hospital in Pittsburgh. I had a quadruple bypass surgery.
Oh, wow.
And while I was being operated, while I was actually being operated on, they took my heart out of me, and they were, reworking it, and I was hooked up to artificial life support. And I had a vision of going up above the earth and being in a ring of light. And at that time, I was very, very dizzy because I couldn't see the bottom or the top, just space, just outer space. And I was clinging on to this ring of light, and then a being appeared, looking like a kind of a teenage version of myself. But every time I looked at him, he was wearing a different kind of clothing from a different era on Earth. And so I came to understand this is my oversoul. And gave me a choice whether I go back to Earth and finish writing the Venus Rising series, or I could go on with him, go back to Venus.
Interesting.
So this is what happened. So the other day I was thinking about past lives and so forth, and I came up with a really cool idea for it. Really cool idea for a T-shirt. I think Rob's going to make it. Past lives matter.
That's awesome. I love that. You guys should definitely make a T-shirt about that. Rob would.
Yeah. I think see the spiritual aspect and the understanding of who we are and where we come from. I've learned so much from Dr. Keller and his books, and this is really the effort of the Venusian. It's not about silver spaceships and spacesuits. Yes, they're working behind the scenes, and yes, there's a complex, dark side and agenda, but this is really about the transformation of human consciousness into understanding what's called the good news, that the Christ consciousness, which is really just a natural aspect of creation. We have, in the beginning was God was the spirit, was the knower, was the known, the knower, and the knowing all at once, and then it had a thought and divided itself into male and female. And when you divide yourself into two, there's necessarily the Trinity, which is the Holy Spirit is the mother, that's the feminine, and then you have the relationship between the infinite and the nature is called the consciousness, and consciousness just is. So it's what we all have to tune into through our awareness, but there's so much relativity that we're blinded by the entropic universe, and we lose the memory of who we are and who we were before as infinite soul spirits. So the Venusian message is for us to extract ourselves from the material realms of pain and suffering and illusion. It's really a big illusion, and to go back to the one true reality of eternal life knowingly. We're already eternal and immortal. We just have to recognize that. So
Robert, you mentioned tachyon, and there are probably people out there they're like, well, isn't that a Star Trek term? Like, what is tachyon? And for those that don't know, tachyon is like particles that move faster than the speed of light, which is like, science calls it like hypothetical, but it's like there is like kind of a strange science behind this. And supposedly this is what some of the things revolved around with what CERN is doing and the experiments and the particle accelerator all kind of like ties into this as well. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up because some people are probably like, what is tachyon?
Right. Well, funny you should ask that, because I actually asked the Queen that question too. So I'd asked these questions. So I have a transcript of her telling me exactly what tachyons are. So not only did she speak many languages, but when Raymond met her and she took him to Venus, she was actually simultaneously at the Lopner base in China, and she appeared to Raymond in Wuxi. She said, "I'm on my etheric double, and I'm here to invite you to go to Venus to witness an ascension party." So Raymond got to go, and so she was acting as an interpreter for the Brazilian space program. So here's what the Queen says directly, I'm quoting: "Tachyons are subatomic particles, neutrinos, accelerated by high energies that can move faster than the speed of light. They're constituent particles of an antimatter universe known by your scientists as Dimension X. I say, are tachyons freely available on this Earth in point in time? Because tachyons are constituent of neutrinos in their electron, muon, tau, and subatomic particles with a mass close to zero. They are considered rare in the third dimensional physical universe. Should they to detect one or more, a special type of cloud chamber is required that can trace the path of ionized radiation." That's a Wilson cloud chamber. "Is there a veil blocking tachyons from coming to Earth? Yes, it's known as the speed of light, which is approximately 186,000 miles per second. The neutrino must be hyperaccelerated in what is near the speed of light. It sheds its tachyons that blink out magically and reappear in Dimension X, having jumped out of our space-time continuum altogether. At the point the tachyons break off from the neutrinos, a shockwave is created that shows itself as a blue flash of Cherenkov radiation. In Dimension X, each tachyon splits into two, with one particle moving forward in time and the other moving backwards in time. This is in accordance with their spin of electrical charge, whether positive or negative. How can we break this veil or circumvent this block? Well, tachyons can be modulated through radar beam transmissions. Are tachyons available from pyramids? Certain locations on the planetary surface lend themselves as the intersection of magnetic lines of force. They can serve as attractors for neutrino particles. Psychics and certain others sensitive to these magnetic lines have accessed energies from these spaces and have erected structures of a spiritual nature to the nodes of these special locations of particle concentration, vortexes, like I said here, where cosmic rays or neutrinos impact the Earth and actually travel through it. Is the subatomic anew from the logoic and monadic plane created by pyramids consistent with the definition of tachyons? This term derives from 19th century theophysis that denote areas of cosmos resonance at much higher frequencies and lighter densities that are found in our own dimension. In this sense, the spiritual nature of the phenomenon indicates the presence of a higher dimension or dimension existing in a tachyon field. How do my tachyon systems work? These systems work together with higher human consciousness. They may be attracting these tachyon particles. Any device used in association with pyramid systems may augment a temporary reduction of a tachyon particle to a photon, luxon, or a particle moving at the speed of light, or perhaps a bradyon, which is another particle. So I asked about my pyramid systems, and I said, could it act as an apportee or a portal into other areas? She said, as the ones that I have that were defined by the Pleiadians that I faithfully reproduced, it says in the right circumstances, it might act as a teleportation receiving station.
Interesting.
I was literally beamed back down to Earth from the Pleiadians years ago. So you can see here that the Queen of Venus knows her stuff, right? So she's busting out some very high level understanding of stuff. So they're here to help us in science, religion, spirituality, music, finance, and to help us develop a department of peace, not a war department.
Well, it's so fascinating because when you're listening to that, it's like, whoa, okay, but actually, yeah, I've done some research on this. Like the first mention of tachyon really was in the early 1900s, except it wasn't really using that term. And then in 1962, it became a term. And in 2011, CERN officially stated, there was a scientist from CERN that officially came out saying that they made particles go faster than the speed of light. And then it's like right away, CERN had an update that were like, oh no, we were wrong. It was like whatever. And they're experimenting with fiber optics, because the thing about fiber optics is like, there's no limit to how fast information could travel in a fiber optic. And it's like CERN is like basically a gigantic fiber optic machine that they're using for the most part. I mean, in a simple form of version of it. But it's like, if they were to admit that there are particles that go faster than the speed of light, it would rewrite everything we know about science and like Einstein's theory of relativity and like all these things that we know. It would just flip science upside down, and people would start asking so many questions. It would get into so many different fields of the study, and it would just show that other realities and other dimensions actually exist. So I think this is why they have to like stop this. This is why it's like in theory instead of like the truth. Right?
Let me say something first, Kaz. So first of all, CERN's not working anymore.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, that's what we heard.
Okay, yeah. And number two, Kaz can address this. He knows, he has amazing science knowledge. So Kaz, go ahead. I know you're going to tell us about the talk.
Okay. Guys. Well, I did want to comment about light, because light is everything, and it's the bridge between. Light is the bridge between spirituality and science. Why do I say that? Because light is both or the electrons anyway exist as both a particle and a wave. And so when we understand this, and we look at all of the ascended masters and all of the gurus and so forth from the Far East, this is how they do it. This is the trick of it, is to use light as a bridge to go back between existing as a particle and existing as energy, as a wave of energy. If you go to rents.com and go all the way down the far right, and you come to the section where I post all the photos of Valiant Thor and everything that took place that day, and you'll see some of them are of Howard and Connie turning into beings of light, transmogrification into beings of light. Howard and Connie Menger. Howard was originally a being from the Saturnian system named Sol Denaro, and his wife Marla, or his wife Connie Menger, was a Venusian named Marla, and they're demonstrating this. They're demonstrating this process and turning into light beings right before the camera, taking their picture at the Flying Saucer Club in the High Bridge, New Jersey. So this is all real stuff, and it needs to be explored a lot further.
And you said Rense.com, like RENSE.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that
Right.
correct?
Jeff Rense, he's pretty
Yes, he's very-
involved in the conspiracy, the dark stuff right now, but he has a pretty big following. Yeah.
I actually posted the notes from Valiant Thor, and I've got the all the photos of all the other people that were there at the Flying Saucer Convention, the Tharp sisters, and August C. Roberts, the photographers, all his notes and letters and comments, and it's all there for the real full story of what happened.
Yeah, Dr. Frank Strange is he was kind of a Bible thumper, but for sure, but he he was a person that really made the reality of understanding the contact and how they've been trying to positively influence and to help us. When the woman that we met, Commander Rain, she met Eisenhower on the tarmac in 1954, and at that point in time, she told them that she had met with all the world powers and said, "You guys got to stop your nuclear above ground testing because you're going to precipitate an axial flip." She gave them some information. They all researched it. They put a moratorium on testing, and then they all got together and said, "Well, we're going to have to survive this, us elite governments," and they started going underground at that point to survive if we did an axial flip. So, of course, it's not for the people to know, but
right. Yeah.
whatever.
Hey, everyone. I hope you liked this part 1 with Dr. Raymond Keller and Robert Potter. Join me for part 2, where it might be just the most controversial episode I've ever done to date. We will get into Mount Shasta and what it really is and its connections to Lemuria, as well as the missing gospels of the Bible with Jesus. That's the controversial part. So join us for part 2. And until next time, I will see you guys out in space.